I blinked, and the industry dumped a freight train of launches on our doorstep. No warning, no warm-up, just a flood of fresh gear begging to be dragged to the range, while the rest of the country argues about what the Second Amendment means this week. That's the energy you feel right now. The tug-of-war between cultural debate and mechanical progress. And tonight, we're stepping straight into the storm. I'm talking new Rimfire toys that feel like a cheat code, folding carbines that stash like a super spy briefcase, red dots that can take a drowning and keep blinking, and a lever gun chambered in 500 S&W Magnum that looks like a museum piece but hits like a sledgehammer. The point is simple. American gun culture never sleeps. Even when the headlines obsess over politics, the benches at your local range stay full, the reloading presses keep clacking, and innovation keeps crawling forward, one trigger, reset at a time. Let's kick the doors open with Smith & Wesson because they walked into the week like they owned the calendar. Their M&P22X is the Rimfire remix nobody asked for, and a lot of us secretly wanted. High capacity is officially normal in 22 LR now. 20-round magazines as standard, 2 of them in the box, and yes, I'll keep asking for 3 because fun should never run dry. The barrel clocks in at 4.1 inches, and the threaded adapter shows up ready for a suppressor, because silence is a love language when you're plinking steel and trying not to hear your own thoughts. Internally, it's hammer-fired like the EZ line, and the slide comes cut for an optic, a trend that's gone from fancy to of course it is, the way seatbelts became non-negotiable. Price lands in that approachable $500 neighborhood. If the trigger breaks clean and resets with conviction, this thing moves from curiosity to automatic grin machine. And just when you think the 22 party is over, Smith & Wesson folds the table and takes it with them. The FPC shows up in 22 LR, and it's exactly the kind of weird we need more of. Compact, stashable, range day friendly. Think 3 20-round magazines, a 16.25-inch barrel, and the same fold-and-carry swagger that turned heads the first time around. You get rifle feel without hallway jam length, a platform begging for upgrades, and a price in the mid-500s that pushes the fun per dollar meter into the green. This is the sort of gun that makes new shooters say, "Wait, you can do that?" And makes veterans smile because we've seen every configuration under the sun. Except this one still feels fresh. But under the laughter and the brass on the concrete, there's a heartbeat. Every launch lands in a country still arguing about what shall not be infringed means in 2025. That tension shapes how we talk, how we train, and how we spend. It's why Rimfire is booming. Cheap reps, easy access, less recoil, more range time. It's why suppressor-friendly threads are now an expectation, not a luxury. It's why optics cuts are everywhere. We need speed, clarity, and confidence the moment a dot appears on glass. The culture is evolving in plain sight. Practical features, smarter design, and value that respects the reality of working Americans who still want quality gear without handing over the rent. This is the part the pundits don't understand. American firearms culture isn't just a headline. It's a living practice, a skill set, a tradition you carry from the truck to the bench to the safe and back again. And this week, it feels like the whole ecosystem leveled up. Smith & Wesson didn't just drop a pistol and call it a day. They decided to remind everyone that the AR world is still their playground. Enter the M&P15 Axe. Even the name sounds like it belongs on a battlefield, something you'd expect to hear shouted in a saga about shield walls and stormed fortresses. But this isn't medieval. It's modern steel dressed with everything today's shooters argue about online. Configurations include a 16-inch barrel, a 14.5-inch pinned version, an 11-inch SB option, and a Performance Center 16-inch that comes with upgraded guts. The extras read like a gearhead's shopping list: Geek Flash Hider, GVAC gas system, Midwest Industries handguard, radiant charging handle, ambidextrous controls, folding sights, flat-faced trigger, and even a pistol grip that mirrors the M&P handgun ergonomics. On paper, it checks every box. In practice, the question burns hotter. Is checking boxes enough anymore? The price tag floats between $1,559 and $1,650, which plants it squarely in the premium but not outrageous camp. Add in a Hyperfire trigger on the Performance Center variant, and you're at least getting something beyond the standard trigger slap. Yet here's the rub. This market is crowded. For that kind of money, shooters expect groups tighter than 1.5 inches at range, consistency that makes every press of the trigger feel like a promise kept. Will this rifle deliver? Maybe. Smith & Wesson rarely makes bad rifles, but rarely making bad isn't the same as making great. Then again, The Axe does something clever. It leans on heritage. When you buy an AR with a Viking name, you're not just buying features, you're buying identity. You're stepping into a culture where aesthetics and psychology matter just as much as engineering. This is how firearms branding has evolved. It's not just mechanics, it's myth-making. And Smith & Wesson knows that game as well as anyone. Speaking of myth-making, Big Horn Armory walked in from left field with a reminder that America still has room for absurd power. Their Model 89 Takedown version arrives chambered in .500 S&W Magnum, a cartridge that laughs in the face of recoil therapy and punishes shoulders like a debt collector. 18-inch barrel, walnut stock, black finished metal. It's an heirloom rifle dressed like a cowboy's dream and powered like a T-Rex nightmare. Price? About $3,800. This isn't a truck gun. It isn't even a range toy. It's a statement piece. It's the kind of firearm you hand to your grandson with a note that says, "Respect this, or it will break you." This is the other side of American gun culture, the side that doesn't care about modularity or optic-ready slides. It cares about romance, tradition, and sheer raw power. The Takedown design adds practicality, yes, but at heart, this rifle is art. And in a world where every other headline is about political restrictions or lawsuits, sometimes art is the rebellion. But before you think the week was all about big booms and boutique price tags, let's shift gears. Because even though firepower dominates the spotlight, it's often the small innovations, the quiet tweaks, that change your day-to-day as a shooter. This week, that came in the form of something most people forget until it fails: hearing protection. Let's be honest, most of us don't walk into the gun shop excited to buy hearing protection. Optics? Absolutely. Ammo? Always. But ear pro? That usually gets tossed in the cart like a last-minute toothbrush on a road trip. Yet here's the truth. If you don't take hearing seriously, you're going to regret it every single day you grow older. Ask any veteran shooter with a constant ringing in their ears, and they'll tell you, losing silence is a cruel trade. That's why a fresh idea in the ear pro space actually matters. Auto Ears, a new company with a name that sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, just rolled out electronic hearing protection that solves a problem every one of us has cursed under our breath. You know the drill. You forget to power off your muffs after a long-range session, and by the next time you head out, the batteries are dead. Not with these. Auto Ears flip on automatically the moment they're on your head and shut off when you take them off. That's not just convenience. It's common sense turned into technology. Add in gel pads for comfort and Bluetooth capability, and suddenly you've got something that makes you rethink what you expect from Ear Pro. MSRP hovers around $190. Not cheap, not crazy, but sitting right in that middle tier where expectations are high and gimmicks don't cut it. This isn't just about saving your ears. It's about changing the conversation. When gear works with you instead of against you, you shoot more confidently, more comfortably, and ultimately, more often. A feature as simple as auto on-off might sound minor, but it can be the difference between throwing them in your bag every trip versus leaving them at home out of frustration. It's a reminder that innovation doesn't always come in the form of a new caliber or a redesigned rifle platform. Sometimes, innovation is about fixing the small, stupid problems we've all silently endured. That theme carried straight into optics this week. Holosun dropped their AEMS Pro X2 and Core X2 red dots, refined, compact, and rugged without weighing your rifle down like a brick. The Pro X2 runs Holosun's multi-reticle system, adds solar backup, and packs an IPX8 water resistance rating, which basically means you could dump it in a puddle and it would shrug like nothing happened. The Core X2 trims the fat, ditches the solar, and still holds its own. Prices stretch from just under $200 to north of $500, depending on the bells and whistles. For shooters tired of clunky mailbox optics, this lineup feels like the answer. Think about that for a moment. Optics that anticipate failure points before you hit them. Rain, battery life, recoil, all of it accounted for. This is the next phase of the American firearms world. Reliability that borders on over-engineering, paired with affordability that respects the everyday shooter's wallet. Because whether you're running drills at the range, hunting in the mud, or keeping a rifle staged for home defense, your gear cannot afford to flinch when you need it most. And that brings us to ammunition, the heartbeat of the whole system. Guns are useless without it, and ammo innovation often gets buried under flashier launches. Not this week. The lineup of new loads tells a story about where the industry is headed. Smarter patterns, cleaner materials, and specialized rounds designed to give shooters every edge possible. When most folks think innovation, their minds go straight to rifles or optics. But the real battlefield of change is often in the box of cartridges you slide into the mag. This week's ammo news proves exactly that. It's not just about power anymore. It's about purpose, precision, and solving problems shooters have wrestled with for decades. Federal came out swinging with their new 12-gauge Raptor steel. Developed with Rob Roberts, it's tailored to his choke system and engineered to throw tighter patterns with steel shot. To the untrained ear, that might sound like marketing fluff. But to waterfowl hunters who spend dawns freezing in blinds, chasing birds that never seem to drop clean, tighter patterns can mean the difference between a wasted morning and a successful hunt. It's practical innovation, the kind that respects both the shooter and the game. Then VOK added their Backwoods Hunter line, 8 rifle calibers, all copper bullets, non-toxic by design. In states and counties where lead bans are spreading like brush fire, this is the future. Hunters get to keep their tradition alive while staying on the right side of regulation. Copper also has that beautiful trait of staying together on impact, punching through without fragmenting into dust. The end result? Cleaner kills, better meat, and fewer questions about what's left in the venison stew. Winchester doubled down with 2 fresh offerings. First, the Last Call Double Shot, a hybrid load mixing tungsten and steel. Available in both 12 and 20 gauge, it's about pattern density without bankrupting the shooter. It's a bridge between performance and affordability, and it just might edge into mainstream adoption if the field results hold up. The second load is the Magnum Dove, high brass shells that blend 7.5 and 9 shot. Again, it's all about squeezing every ounce of consistency out of the pattern. Sounds simple, but dove hunters know better. Density decides whether you leave with a full bag or go home shaking your head. But the curveball came from Black Collar Munitions. Their new Subsonic 308 is a 220-grain bullet designed for suppressed platforms. Price? About $1 per round. That might sound steep until you realize Subsonic 308 usually costs way more. This is niche ammo, no question, meant for suppressed bolt guns and specialized setups, but it's a sign of respect to that corner of the community. When manufacturers chase affordability in a space that's always been expensive, you know they're listening. Put it all together, and the message is clear. Ammunition is no longer just a commodity. It's a tailored tool, fine-tuned for hunters, precision shooters, and anyone who cares about what comes out of the muzzle as much as what goes in the chamber. The more we push for specialized loads, the more the market delivers, and that is the quiet revolution reshaping firearms culture under our feet. And while cartridges are evolving, the companies themselves are moving too. One brand in particular reminded us that growth in this industry isn't just about what you sell, it's about where you build. Kel-Tec, the company everyone either cheers or jeers, just cut the ribbon on a brand new facility in Rock Springs, Wyoming. At first glance, it looks like a standard new building, new job story, but it's bigger than that. Wyoming isn't just any state. It's a gun-friendly haven with lower costs, wide-open land, and a political climate that doesn't treat firearms companies like outlaws. For a brand best known for oddball designs that split the room, like the PR-57 pistol, expansion here means one thing. Kel-Tec is betting on the future of American gun ownership. Some shooters knock Kel-Tec for quirks in quality control or unconventional ergonomics. Others respect them for pushing boundaries no one else touches. Either way, their decision to grow beyond Florida tells you something vital. There's still serious demand, and manufacturers are laying roots deeper across the heartland. This isn't just a company win, it's an industry win. More plants mean more jobs, more output, more competition. And competition is the oxygen that keeps innovation alive. Even if you'll never buy a Kel-Tec, the ripple effect pushes every other brand to step up. But let's pivot to the elephant in the room, the AR platform. On paper, this should be the golden era of ARUPs. Modular perfection, endless aftermarket options, rifles for every budget and mission. And yet, there's fatigue. Another 16-inch rifle with an M-LOK rail and mid-length gas system doesn't spark the same excitement it did 10 years ago. A lighter bolt carrier, a slightly different logo, a new twist rate. Are these really enough to stir the soul? For many seasoned shooters, the answer is no. This is the crossroads the culture is standing at. We're spoiled by abundance. We have so many options that sameness has become the enemy. To justify a $1,600 rifle today, it needs to do more than function. It needs to impress. It needs to make you pause at the firing line, grin under your ear pro, and think, this one was worth it. The last time an AR genuinely caught my attention, it was because it had a side-charging upper and looked like it fell out of a sci-fi set. That spark of creativity is rare now, drowned in a sea of spreadsheet specs. But here's the flip side. For the brand new shooter, this is paradise. Imagine walking into the gun shop for the first time in 2025. The wall of ARs is taller, wider, and more accessible than ever before. Entry-level rifles, mid-tier builds, premium performers, they're all there, waiting. For those stepping into ownership, this is the golden age. For veterans of the platform, though, it's starting to feel like watching the same movie over and over with different actors, and that tension is the beating heart of American firearms culture right now. Fresh blood finding joy in the classics, old hands demanding something truly new. The question that lingers is simple. Which side will the industry lean toward? The answer will define the next decade of rifles in America. After all the talk of sameness, it's worth remembering why certain products still stand out. Take that 22 FPC we mentioned earlier. It isn't revolutionary. It isn't promising to rewrite the history of firearms. But it's fun. Fold it, stash it, pop 20 rounds, reload from the stock, and grin. Sometimes fun is the only metric that matters. And fun, believe it or not, is a serious part of keeping the culture alive. If guns only felt like work, drills, and politics, most people would burn out fast. It's the moments of weird joy, the rifle that folds like origami, the pistol that spits rimfire like confetti, that keep range days electric. The same is true for the auto ears. Nobody wakes up thinking, I hope my day is made by EarPro. Yet here we are. Automatic on and off solves a problem we've all silently cursed. No more wasted batteries. No more dead muffs when you roll up to the firing line. It's not glamorous, but it's useful. And usefulness has its own magic. When small innovations make daily shooting smoother, they build loyalty. They build the kind of trust that bleeds into the bigger picture, into what brand you buy, what company you defend, what future you want to see thrive. Ammo tells the same story. Subsonic 308 that doesn't cost a fortune. Copper bullets that let hunters comply with the patchwork of environmental regulations without sacrificing effectiveness. Hybrid shot shells that stretch patterns just a little tighter. These things don't always make headlines, but they change hunts, change range days, and change expectations. Innovation doesn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it just needs to solve the problem in front of you. And then there are the companies quietly grinding in the background. Kel-Tec building a new factory in Wyoming isn't sexy news, but it's important. It's capacity, it's jobs, it's resilience against the waves of demand and scarcity that slam into this industry every election cycle, every court case, every tragedy splashed across the headlines. When factories expand, when lines run hotter, when more rifles, pistols, and carbines roll off the belts, it stabilizes the ecosystem. Shooters notice. Competitors notice. The ripple is real. All of this ties back to the same pulse. The American firearms world is restless but not stagnant. It's searching for balance. Between fun and function, between tradition and progress, between the sameness of spreadsheets and the thrill of the unexpected. We live in a culture where one Supreme Court ruling can shift the ground under our feet, where a single state law can change how millions carry, where a single innovation can ripple across every range in the country. That's why every launch matters, no matter how small it looks on paper. And as we close this ride through the week's avalanche of announcements, the question turns back to you. The shooters, the readers, the ones who keep this culture alive with every round fired. So here's where all the threads tie together. After wading through pistols, rifles, EarPro, optics, ammo, and factories, one truth remains: value is king. Not hype, not buzzwords, not another tactical operator plus ultra label slapped on a cardboard box. Real value, the kind you can measure at the range, in the field, and in your wallet. And that's where you come in. Every shooter has a personal metric for value. For some, it's the Rimfire pistol that costs less than dinner for four, but delivers endless hours of range fun. For others, it's the heirloom lever gun that'll outlast their grandchildren. Maybe your pick is the budget optic that holds zero no matter how many times it gets knocked on the bench, or the ammo that prints tight groups without turning your bank account into a crime scene. Whatever it is, that choice speaks louder than marketing copy. It tells manufacturers what matters. It shapes the future. This is why I always throw the question back at you. What firearm, what piece of gear, What box of cartridges do you think delivers the best bang for the buck right now? Maybe it's a sleeper hit that nobody talks about. Maybe it's a tried and true classic. When you drop those answers in the comments, you're not just swapping opinions. You're mapping out where this culture is headed. Every thread becomes a pulse check. Every debate a reflection of how Americans are thinking about their rights, their wallets, and their time behind the trigger. And that's the bigger picture here. We're not just reviewing products. We're living inside a culture that's equal parts tradition, innovation, and argument. The Second Amendment isn't a dusty line in an old document. It's alive, debated in courtrooms, defended in living rooms, and tested on every range in the country. Every launch, every accessory, every box of ammo carries that weight. Whether the product makes you grin like a kid or nod like a pragmatist, it's part of the ongoing story. As we roll into the late summer rush, expect even more announcements, even more debates, even more late-night scrolling through spec sheets wondering if the new rifle is really worth $1,600 or if the answer has been sitting in your safe all along. That's the fun of it, the frustration of it, and the beauty of it. So, wherever you're watching this, on your phone at work, blasting it through the garage while cleaning guns, or unwinding after a long day, know this: you are part of the story. Your choices, your voice, your traditions keep the culture moving forward. And no matter what the headlines scream, no matter what politicians posture, the American firearms community adapts, argues, and endures. That's going to wrap it for this one. We covered a tidal wave of gear and walked through what it really means for shooters like you and me. Thanks for riding along. Stay sharp, stay safe, and never forget, the fight for value, rights, and culture doesn't pause, and neither should we.